Hey guys, what's up? Zambash here. I know it has been a long time since an upload, but that's because nothing has really been going on in Path of Exile. But finally, we are here at the eve of 3.26, big endgame expansion, and a somewhat interesting looking league mechanic, so I am really excited to finally get back into Path of Exile again. And I am going to be starting with a Rage Vortex Berserker as my first build of the league. This is something I messed around a bit with a kind of jank version in one of the Pox leagues as a Settlers reset. Ended up dropping it kind of early just because the economy was dead and I'm not really interested in SSF kind of gameplay. So I decided I would just shelve it for later for when the next league came along, and now it's finally here. And I think Rage Vortex felt really amazing, even in the kind of jank setup I was using. So I've been excited to try it again since then. So I've got a few different trees planned out and some things just to make sure all of my stuff would work. As usual, haven't really planned out every detail in POB because that's just not usually how I do things. But early leveling is going to look like this. This is level 33, so this will be about when I do regular lab, and we'll be using Sunder at that point. Gonna grab Sunder right at level 12, obviously, and we're going to be using Sunder from level 12 until about level 55 at Cruel Lab. This is what it will look like at Cruel Lab, and that is about when I will make the switch to Rage Vortex, most likely. I feel like that's, you can go to Rage Vortex like as soon as you get the gem, but I really think there are a couple things that make it a lot more comfortable to use. So I'm going to be doing some of those things before making the switch to Rage Vortex. But I think about Cruel Lab time, for the first lab, I'm going to grab Crave the Slaughter, and for Cruel Lab, I'm going to grab Warbringer. And with that twice as many exerts and getting some of the Warcry Mastery stuff that you need, that's about when I think it'll actually feel comfortable to play Rage Vortex. So that's when I'm planning to make the swap. Then sort of our early endgame look, level 80 here. Excuse me. That's about when I'll start getting into Impale. I'll have my Impale nodes, and I'm going to be using the Impale support. Don't know at which points I'll actually need or not need Unwavering Stance. We'll mess around with that. I'll get my Endurance charges going. Grab this Charge Mastery for increased duration because that's going to make things feel a lot more comfortable for various reasons on this build. And then a sort of endgame min-max level 100 tree here. We're going to be using Glorious Vanity to get Immortal Ambition for Overleach. We're going to be using a Light of Meaning with 28 passives in the radius, so that's going to give like 168% fizz damage. We're hopefully eventually going to have a Watcher's Eye with Impale additional hits and ideally extra physical damage. I'm hoping that won't be too expensive because everybody's flavor is going to be like... I'm sure there's going to be some champs doing Impale stuff that might want something like this, but it seems like the big flavor is going to be Volcanic Fissure of Snaking Berserker, which will not use Pride, obviously, so I'm hoping that Pride Watcher's Eyes will not be really expensive this league. Then we're going to get extra Frenzy Charge, we're going to grab some extra Leech stuff, so we'll have like a really large amount of Overleech. We're going to grab a bunch of Warcry stuff, not a ton, I mean 2 wheels of Warcry stuff, and we're going to use a Forbidden Rite setup to guaranteed Savage hit ourselves so that we can use Vengeful Cry, and we'll have like 113 maximum rage, so we'll have a ton of rage for really, really strong rage vortexes. That's basically what I'm planning with the build. Probably Storm Shroud eventually for ailment immunity, and I think it should be a pretty solid, smooth progression. And I have tailored my Atlas trees to facilitate that progression as well. Get over to my Atlas trees here. So initially, as usual, just going to be doing blitzing map progression. So we're just going to run up here, around the Kirak wheel, around the side, and right up to Unwavering Vision, which we'll then use to grab all this other side stuff. Fill out all of the Kirak and map stuff to get you that really smooth early progression. The next thing I'm going to add in is Delve. Delve is an interesting mechanic that kind of peaks at different points in the league, but it's quite strong really early as long as you find some city nodes, because those city nodes give a ton of gumball currency and they actually have map boxes in them pretty frequently, so they can actually bump up your map progression really quickly as well, and you get a little extra sort of power-ish during maps here, a little extra damage, move speed, and max res from Packed with Energy, which is quite nice. And one of the things that really has motivated me to go for Delve is they moved Leech to suffixes on weapons, which means now if you use a jagged plus corroded prefix, it gets rid of all mods except the 3 physical mods that you want, and then there's like 2 gem mods that are left, but they don't get bumped by either of those fossils, so realistically you're only going to be able to roll the 3 fizz mods, so I really think jagged plus corroded is going to be a really good way to craft a fizz axe early, and that's going to be like the biggest boost for this character, is just getting a good weapon. So I'm going to be aiming for those jagged plus corroded fossils and trying to craft up a good axe quickly. And then later on, of course, you can sell fossils and resonators to other people, and you can hit big jackpots from all and other things down there in Delve, which is really solid. After that, I am actually going to start speccing into the Settlers stuff, the Settlers of Kalgor, maxing out my ore. And my plan, along with delving to try and craft the weapon, is I am going to just get a bunch of Crimson Iron and Orichalcum and send that all to Te Onui, because that will give strength, armor, and weapons, and I'm going to do that to just try and get some solid early items, and potentially items that you might like use a Veiled Chaos on after locking prefixes or suffixes, and potentially get strength weapons with like 1 good of the fizz rolls, and then try my luck at using the Recombinator somewhat, either the old or the new Recombinator method, to try and get some good combo weapons. That'll give me another avenue toward hopefully getting some good weapons and some good early solid armor. At that point, I'm still using Unwavering Vision. At some point, once I have quite a lot of passives available, I will ditch Unwavering Vision, of course, and start using Scarabs for both Delve and Kalgor, and I will spec into Maven, and we're going to go to Destructive Play with all of the Synthesis map stuff, or the Shaper Elder, Synthesis, and Conquerors to get the maps that we need for the Maven invitations, and we'll do some Maven boss rotas. This Rage Vortex should be a really solid bossing character, so really good for doing the Maven arenas. Good extra chunk of currency that way. And I have added... Is this even the right? I think I had an earlier version actually that I had Maven in, but this maps though, yeah, I think I had another version somewhere. Anyways, we're also adding Betrayal on. My sort of idea this league is I don't want to do things that take a lot of time. I want my maps to be quite smooth and quick so that I can spend a lot of time in Delve, and so I want to pull what I can out of maps, and so I think pulling a lot of ores that I can send off in shipments is going to be useful. And potentially this Lost in Transit, 6% chance for your ore deposits to be replaced by lost shipments, could occasionally spit you out something interesting. And then obviously Veiled Orbs are always worth a lot, Veiled Exalts, and then Veiled Chaos I think will play in pretty well with both my Delve and Kalgor item acquisitions to potentially make some good items. And then a super endgame version here, 132, so that's like, you know, after you have all of the hard Maven invites and stuff done, basically is the same, except I also add Scarabs on top, and then depending on how good it seems like some of the new memory things might be, I will eventually drop the Synthesis ones here, because Synthesis maps, once you have the invites done, just aren't really worth a whole lot. So I'll probably drop those and use those to grasp the past, and then I can drop some of these extra ore nodes to get one of these or a couple of these if I feel like there's one of these bosses that I really want to target more than the others. So that is my starting plan. Just going to be a combination of good Maven arena stuff along with Delve and Kalgor and Betrayal. Let me just go into my builds here, because I thought I had an early one that was Delve, Kalgor, Maven. Is that what I was... There we go. I did have an early one here as well. So this will still be Unwavering Vision, 99 points. And that'll get me started in the Maven stuff, but before I switch to the point where I'm starting the Scarab maps. Think it should be pretty smooth progression. One of these will probably go on a second Atlas tree. I might go up to like here, or actually probably just to here, and then it would be a lot of respec points to switch to the next version, so at that point is probably when I would just start into a second Atlas tree to fill out this version rather than trying to get so many respecs. But overall, I think it should be really solid. I'm excited for the league, and it has been a really long time for PoE. I'll post update videos, and if the build goes well, there will be a build guide eventually. So thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned.